It's a famous experiment. In the 1970s, an American researcher named John Calhoun built a perfect world for mice. He gave them everything they could possibly need: food, safety, space, warmth. No predators, no disease, no lack of resources. At first, the colony flourished. The population grew quickly, families formed, and the system looked stable. But as time went on, something strange happened. The mice stopped reproducing. They stopped interacting. They began isolating themselves, grooming endlessly, fighting without reason. Eventually, the population collapsed, not from hunger or violence, but from meaninglessness. Calhoun called it Universe 25, a paradise that quietly became a graveyard. Half a century later, we've built our own version. We have everything: food delivered in minutes, medicine, endless entertainment, the safest, healthiest conditions in history. And yet, anxiety, loneliness, and apathy are everywhere. People are no longer starving, they're withdrawing. We don't die from lack of resources, but from the slow erosion of purpose. Maybe it isn't just a metaphor anymore. Maybe we really are living inside Universe 25. Only this time, the experiment runs itself, and we are both the subjects and the designers. Every generation inherits a world built by the one before it. But the boomers didn't just inherit, they kept everything. They grew up in an age of endless expansion: cheap education, cheap housing, stable jobs, and governments that believed in the future. They bought homes when homes cost less than a few years of salary. They stayed in the same jobs for decades. They built families, careers, and savings that grew while they slept. It wasn't luck, it was timing. They entered the game when the board was still open. And when they won, they froze the rules. Property became investment, not shelter. Work became loyalty, not growth. Politics became protection, not change. Now, most of the wealth sits in the hands of those who no longer create anything. Entire economies revolve around maintaining the comfort of people who already have more than enough. Pensions, property portfolios, second and third homes that sit half empty. The system calls it stability, but for younger generations, it feels like a lock. Boomers didn't break the world, they optimized it perfectly, ruthlessly, completely. So completely that there's no room left to move. And like in every closed system, the next generation stopped believing in progress. Not because they're lazy, but because they've seen what success really leads to: a bigger house, an emptier world, and the quiet comfort of knowing nothing will ever change. For millennials and Zoomers, the future was always marketed as open. Study hard, follow your passion, work smart, not hard. All the old slogans still circulate. But somewhere along the way, the door quietly closed. Housing became an asset, not a right. Education turned into debt. Jobs multiplied, but stability vanished. And career growth now means switching companies every year just to keep the same salary. The structure built by the boomers still stands, but it no longer works for anyone who wasn't there when it was cheap to enter. Everything is priced for the past. A small apartment costs 30 years of income. Children cost more than people can imagine, and the idea of saving for the future feels like a cruel joke when you can barely afford the present. The result isn't rebellion, It's resignation. People still work, but without faith. They rent, but never belong. They plan, but only for survival. You can see it in their eyes, that quiet disbelief that life will ever get easier. For the first time in modern history, a generation doesn't expect to live better than their parents. They've seen the future, and it looks like someone else's property. It's not that they don't want to build families or buy homes, it's that they can't see the point of building anything inside a system designed to extract, not sustain. The world isn't running out of space. It's just been sold out, long before they were even born. Every species stops reproducing when the environment stops making sense. Humans are no different. In theory, we still talked about family, legacy, and the future. In practice, the numbers keep falling. Birth rates collapse not because people forgot how to love, but because love stopped feeling safe. Children used to symbolize hope. Now they represent debt, risk, and responsibility that few can afford. Having a child today means signing a contract with a future you don't believe in. Older generations call it selfishness, but maybe it's self-preservation. Why bring someone new into a world where work no longer leads to security, where homes are owned by corporations, and where every headline sounds like a countdown? Younger people don't dream of growing families, they dream of escaping anxiety. They replace continuity with self-care, partnership with independence, parenting with projects. The idea of legacy has shifted from DNA to data. Videos, photos, posts that outlive you online if nothing else does. It's not rebellion, it's surrender to reality. A quiet refusal to pretend that optimism is still rational. Like the mice in Calhoun's experiment, we haven't lost the ability to reproduce, we've just lost the reason. When the future disappears, meaning follows. Work still exists, but not purpose. People keep moving, earning, posting, maintaining the illusion of progress, yet deep down they know nothing is moving forward. The system still runs, but no one believes in it anymore. In earlier generations, survival came with a story. Build a family, buy a house, leave something behind. Now, survival is the story. Just making it through another month feels like an achievement. Technology filled the gap for a while. We replaced religion with entertainment, tradition with productivity, and belonging with metrics, followers, views, engagement. Each notification feels like proof that you still exist, but it fades in seconds, and you're left with the same emptiness you started with. We keep talking about mental health, but it's not just individual sadness, it's structural despair, a collective awareness that everything is functioning and nothing is fulfilling. Even progress feels meaningless when it doesn't connect to anything larger than consumption. You can have infinite content, infinite comfort, infinite connection, and still feel nothing. Like the mice in Universe 25, we've perfected our environment but lost the reason to live inside it. There are no predators, no hunger, no fear. Only the quiet fatigue of abundance. And maybe that's the final stage of civilization, when comfort replaces hope and survival continues long after meaning is gone. Every system needs renewal to survive. New ideas, new leaders, new hands to carry the weight forward. But what happens when no one lets go? Our world wasn't designed to grow old. It was built during a time of endless expansion, when youth, innovation, and optimism drove everything. Now, the same people who built it are still in charge, managing decline with the same tools they once used for growth. Governments run by pensioners, companies led by founders who refuse to step down, economies built around retirement funds that must keep inflating to stay solvent. The system can't evolve because it's busy maintaining itself. Every institution, from politics to business to culture, is calibrated to protect the comfort of those who've already made it. They hold the houses, the assets, the influence, and rewrite the rules to keep it that way. For them, stability is survival. For everyone else, it's stagnation. And so we live in a civilization that refuses to die and refuses to be reborn. Old models continue on autopilot, producing numbers instead of progress. The young are told to be patient, to wait their turn. But there is no turn left to take. You can feel it everywhere, the weight of an aging order stretched over a restless generation. The energy that once built the future is now spent preserving the past. It's not decay in the traditional sense, it's preservation without purpose, a system that outlived its own meaning and still insists on calling it stability. If someone had described our world 50 years ago, it would have sounded like a laboratory setup, an environment without hunger, without danger, filled with endless comfort and entertainment. A place where every physical need is met and every emotional one quietly withers. In Universe 25, that was the beginning of the end. The mice stopped building families. They stopped protecting one another. They lived long, safe, meaningless lives until the colony simply collapsed. Not from violence, not from disease, but from the loss of purpose. We've built our own version, only bigger and more sophisticated. We live surrounded by abundance, connected to everyone and no one, monitored by algorithms that know our fears better than we do. The experiment doesn't need scientists anymore. It runs itself, driven by data, profit, and the illusion of choice. No one locked us in. We volunteered. Every time we traded silence for noise, thought for distraction, presence for performance, we agreed to stay. The walls are invisible, and that's why they work so well. But even within an experiment, awareness still matters. Knowing you're inside the system is the first act of resistance. There is no single escape, no unplugging, no revolution, no mass awakening. Only small exits, attention reclaimed, time spent without a screen, conversations that don't end in transactions, tiny moments of refusal that the algorithm can't predict or monetize. In Universe 25, no one made it out. But we still can, not by breaking the walls, but by remembering what it feels like to be human inside them. Because the experiment isn't over yet. And as long as we can still notice the silence between the signals, there's still a way to leave, even if the world around us never does. Think about it. Just think about it.